Hello, welcome to this update for North America. Let's see what's happening here. First, the severe weather. We have these enhanced risk spots of the southeast today, North South Carolina and Georgia as well. We have this marginal risk in parts of the southeast into the Midwest and all the way to Montana. A very big marginal risk and this light risk in the southeast and this light risk in the plains into the upper Midwest. So let's see here. There's like some 2% tornado threat there up in parts of the plains into the upper Midwest, in Iowa, Minnesota, spots of South Dakota, Nebraska. So be careful in those areas, especially like tornado too possible. The wind threat is 30% in the southeast and 15% in both slight risks and 5%. But please be careful around South Carolina, North Carolina, those areas into Georgia, that 30%. And there's hail just 5% in the southeast and in the high plains. So be careful in those areas. So severe wind gusts are possible in parts of the Carolinas to the southeast, with widely scattered strong to severe storms possible from the northern high plains into the eastward into the mid-Atlantic too. So be careful in those areas. Let's just see very quick here. An unusually favorable thermodynamic pattern has evolved across the southeastern U.S. with very steep mid-level lapse rates, cool temperatures aloft, strong daytime heat in surface dew points in the 70s. You yield Cape values so over 3,500 joules per kilogram. Large-scale forcing is weak, but suggesting convective initiation will be poorly focused. However, there's the 12C cam solutions show several clusters of storms through the afternoon, spreading southward from North Carolina to South Carolina, eastern Georgia. Vertical shears weather weak, suggesting storms will be rather disorganized. However, there's a conditional risk for an active day across the enhanced risk of considerable coverage, damaging wind with reports possible. As storms spread southwestward, this across Georgia, the risk locally for damaging gusts continue. And there's a risk for microbursts in those areas as well, especially the enhanced risk in those areas to the southeast. So be careful, some dangerous microbursts. And across Nebraska, Iowa, Minnesota, some visible satellite images shows developing differential heating zone extending from south central Nebraska into central Iowa. Full sun to the south is only to strong instability, scared afternoon storm development, band 3 of 30 to 40 knots southwesterly flow aloft atop the zone, coupled with strengthening sudden low-level winds, will encourage organized bowing clusters of storms capable damaging winds and hail, and a tornado or two cannot be ruled out. A finger or two in Kansas and Colorado, and a finger or two in the Midwest. So be careful in those areas too. In Canada today, we do have across Saskatchewan into Alberta some possible chances for a severe storm, especially in the area A across central southern Saskatchewan, 90 to 110 km per gusts, some 2 to 4 centimeter hail, and some 50 millimeters of rain possible, and even a tornado or two possible as well. So shows like across area B, further into Alberta and Saskatchewan, and also some damaging winds and large hail, and still some hail in this gray area for general thunderstorms and some damaging winds. So be careful during the night. This is night one, Wednesday through Thursday. Still shows some dangerous storms in Saskatchewan during the night. So be careful. And still for day two. But day two valid Wednesday through Thursday. Yeah, this is today's Wednesday through Thursday. So yeah, they don't have day two yet, so it's the same. But be careful Wednesday, today in those areas. In Ontario, just some storms far southern Ontario, nothing too crazy. In Quebec, shows far southern Quebec, a storm or two. And Atlantic Canada, nothing really, just a storm or two in the ocean, more isolated. But in British Columbia, let's check if this is really Wednesday. Yes, shows spots of Yukon and spots of British Columbia into southern British Columbia, some possible storms, mainly some damaging winds and hail, and some heavy rain, some of them. So be careful. And I think there will be some storms in Alaska as well. So be careful. Shows here the her In those areas, the Midwest, a couple of storms already, especially later in the afternoon, northern Iowa into Minnesota, some stronger severe storms there. So this goes later into Wisconsin, still a few storms. And tomorrow, Thursday, still shows some across a portion of the plains into the Midwest, possible Thursday. Now, the show here in the Southeast, those areas shows a couple of storms North Carolina into South Carolina, especially they kind of evolve into North Carolina and go south there into eastern South Carolina too, and Georgia, especially later in the night, still shows ones in Georgia. So stay safe, those stronger storms there. Then this goes, and yeah, and Thursday still shows some scary storms in Florida and Mississippi and Alabama in some areas. Today in the Bahamas, plenty of storms, southern Florida, so be careful in the Bahamas too. And does show some showers near southeastern Texas, a thunderstorm or two as well. So yeah, stay safe, especially North Carolina, Georgia, South Carolina. So be careful. There's the Cape, and it's pretty high in those areas. So shows like right now it's still about noon or something there. It's the early afternoon already, so shows some spots to 5,000 joules per kilogram in North Carolina, the HER, and shows more than 3,000 across Georgia, South Carolina. Later in the afternoon, it dies down a little bit because the storms be already cheering it, but does show still like some 3,000 to 4,000 joules per kilogram as those storms fire, and during the night it vanishes. But be careful. Tomorrow still some Cape for some storms the southeast, but today it's very, very extreme those amounts. So be careful those storms. Does show central areas here for the plains in Iowa. Those areas does get higher, close to 2,500 to 3,000 joules per kilogram. Those areas in Iowa, especially later, close to 4,000. So be careful in those areas, plenty of stability as well. So shows some in Saskatchewan as well, some 1,000 to 2,000 joules per kilogram for those storms. So be aware as well. And there's here like those max wind gusts does show those sections of the southeast. So let's see closer up. Shows like later into North Carolina, a few spots South Carolina, especially in between North South Carolina, some a few spots to 70 to 80 mile per gusts in a few spots in the white, possibly even stronger if there are microbursts. So be careful in those areas and stay safe. The significant turn parameter is not too high. It's very low, but let's show a finger to in Nebraska late in the evening, or like in Iowa, Nebraska, a couple of spots there, but very little. Nothing too crazy. In the southeast, some tiny whispers, but those storms won't really be tornadic. But be aware, those areas, there's like the updraft Halisti does show the southeast, doesn't show much for updraft Halisti, but does show indicate some chances for larger hail across Nebraska into Iowa and Minnesota. So the herd does indicate some stronger storms in those areas. So stay safe just in case. Now for day two, for Thursday tomorrow, does show here like if it loads good. There's this marginal risk across Montana to North Dakota, and this very crazy marginal risk goes all the way from Texas, stretches to Michigan, and dives south again towards the Florida Keys. So be careful in those areas. There's some hail spots of the southeast from Mississippi to Pennsylvania. So be careful. The wind 5% in all the areas for some damaging gusts. Tornado threat less than 2%, but you never know, it might change. So scared strong storms possible from the Central Plains to Lower Michigan, parts of the southeast, and parts of Montana on Thursday. Scared the damaging gusts appear to be the main concern. So be careful in those areas Thursday. Friday we have an interesting situation again. We have already a slight risk from Nebraska to North Dakota and to South Dakota, Minnesota too. Possibly this will affect Canada too. So there's this marginal in the southeast. Probabilistic some 15.5%, and this 15% is hedged for some significant severe weather possible in those areas Friday. So we really gotta watch this area closely on Friday for some very dangerous storms. So severe storms producing large hail, locally damaging winds are forecast parts northern plains late from Friday. Sporadic damaging gusts also occur parts of the mid-Atlantic southeast. So be careful in those areas. So that's showing the northern plains that low pressure will deepen from the Dakotas southward towards central high plains with a wind shift boundary pushing east across the western Dakotas in the afternoon to a plume of steep low-level lapse rates will develop in the nose into central South Dakota, while dew point in the upper 60s, upper to mid 60s, and will spread across the area as well. There will also be moderate to strong instability late afternoon and evening. The storms are expected to form within the Here surface trough where the cap will be zero late in the day. Stronger storms give us significant hail, locally damaging gusts should occur in the Dakotas through the evening, with isolated cells expanding southward across Nebraska, Kansas, perhaps far eastern Colorado. In addition, elevated severe storms persist northwest Minnesota in the low-level jet increases during the evening with large hail potential. So stay safe in those areas Friday still and in Canada as well. And the rest is kind of quiet. So be aware, those areas stay safe. There's still this elevated fire danger in Nevada into Oregon, branching to California. So be aware, those areas does show here the European model for those storms. So Thursday, today Wednesday into Thursday, Southeast, Midwest. Thursday afternoon does show in the Midwest more storms and plains. So we'll see what happens tomorrow. So but does show Friday there across Ontario and Quebec, more storms in central Canada and those areas, but especially North Dakota shows the stronger ones. And still throughout this weekend, a few storms in the southeastern US, central Canada, still some storms to watch. Still shows stuff in the plains next week to watch as well. So stay safe in those areas. And here, let's see, there's still some excessive rainfall in New Mexico into Texas, far southern Colorado, and a few spots in the Midwest into the northern plains. So be careful, marshal east, southeast, and more spots. Day two, from Kansas to Michigan, a slight risk, and this very wide marginal, and the southwest as well. Day three, marginal in spots of Texas, New Mexico, spots the northern plains, and slight risk right in New York, northern Vermont. So marginal there as well. Day four, a very tiny marginal in New Mexico and northern plains, upper Midwest and northeast. Day five still shows a marginal there into the Texas, New Mexico area and further there into the Midwest. So be aware in those areas. Day 1 through 7 shows this area across the Gulf with potentially close to 5 inches near the Florida coast, 4 inches central Florida, and more areas close to 5. So we're watching this area for some more moisture. Mexico still very wet, shows the Midwest areas to more than 3 to 4 inches, and also Vermont, Northeast. So be aware in those areas, and we'll keep watching. And as you know, as you might have been feeling there, there's the heat wave still that we talked about last weekend. So today, Wednesday, is still an extreme heat risk across the mid-Atlantic into the Midwest. And Thursday still shows some pockets of extreme heat risk in the Midwest, spots of the Mid-Atlantic, and still some moderate in Montana and spots in the Southeast, and major heat risk in the red across this area. Friday, still some major to extreme, the Midwest into the Mississippi Valley. And there's Saturday, some pockets of major heat risk across central into the mid-south and the mid-Atlantic. Sunday, still some major heat risk, possibly expanding on the west, more moderate. Monday, some major heat risk in the northwest area, and still spots to the east. And Tuesday, still on the Atlantic coast, some major heat risk. So be careful in those areas. And here, for the heat, the show Those temperatures still more than 100, a few spots in the southwest today. Be careful, some 90s across the interior west array, and still more than 100, those spots near the east coast. And the heat indices there last 2 days, especially yesterday, were like insane. I saw some like 117 heat indices in some areas, so still be careful today. It will feel much hotter than it actually is. So there's like during the night, day one shows still the Rockies slightly cooler, but still some 70s during the night in the south and east. So be careful. Shows like some 106 again Thursday afternoon the southwest, more spots 90s in the south, southeast, into the Midwest, and into Montana as well. There's day two, shows some 70s during the night and morning. For this is Friday morning, and shows still cooler in the high elevations there in the west. But does shows up to 107 again Friday afternoon in the west as it builds and shows more 90s, 100s in the valleys, California. So be careful, more 90s the plains southeast. Saturday morning still shows some 70s during the night and even to 80 degrees during the night in Arizona. That's very hot for the night, so be careful. Some 50s northern northeast, some 70s further south, and cooler in the Rockies still. But Saturday afternoon shows like 108 again, even higher in a few spots. There in the southwest and some 90s across the plains, southeast, some 100s in the valleys in California. So stay safe in those areas. There's still Sunday morning, slightly cooler northern central Rockies, some 70s in the Midwest still. And let's see here, further south, some 70s during the night, and some 80s still in Arizona for Sunday morning. Then there's Sunday afternoon, shows to 112 again in Arizona. This changes all the time, but this is the most likely forecast. Shows some 90s the Midwest, 99 in Texas, very hot. Some 90s as far north as Washington, in California, so stay safe next weekend. Monday morning to 85 minimum temperature in Arizona. That's too hot for minimum temperature. Stay safe, drink a lot of water, have proper cooling during the night. Shows some 70s, mid-south, southeast into the Midwest. And then for June 30th, does grow a lot to 100 degrees in Washington, even higher in Idaho, some 90s in Montana, and even Colorado and the lower elevations to 100, nearly to 114 again, the Southwest. Might be like, if we take a look closer, this is June 30th, shows to 114, 113, and this might grow still. So be careful next week. There are still like Tuesday, July 1st, during the night, 89 degrees. That's no joke. Please stay cool. And there's like for July 1st, it's still very hot, so 111, 109, 90s in the northwest, 103 in Idaho, Washington, and some 90s in the east, southeast still. So stay safe in those areas, be careful. Snow, not really anything anymore. It's too hot. And then there's 24-hour wind gusts. Max wind gust shows a few spots in the west, kind of breezy, and in the plains a few spots, but nothing crazy, just some 20 to 35 mile per hour gusts in a few spots, slightly higher in the mountains. So beware, and some heavy rain in the Midwest. It's just in the next 48 hours. Already shows even closer to 4 inches, these high resolution models. So stay safe in those areas. And there's something interesting about to happen. So here there's like those above average temperatures. They see within in the west and the southeast, slightly below average. Some areas day 8 through 14. It does normalize in the northeast. Some models are even showing some below average, and there's below average the southwest. And I want you to guess why. So and there's still like some above average for the northwest and southeast. So precipitation here does show this above average pattern hinting at the southwest. So this is probably the start of the monsoon, the North American monsoon near Arizona, New Mexico, as we start July. So this is day 6 to 10, day 8 to 14, still showing some big chances of above average, even some 70% chance of above average precipitation in Arizona in the first week of July. So this monsoon might start off strong, but we'll keep watching. It's still a few weeks away, but be aware, the monsoon is about to start. Prepare your cameras for lightning photography. So yeah, be careful. And here in Canada, does show the rain accumulation, especially in Ontario, those stronger storms, so some 77 millimeters, even to like 90 millimeters in Ottawa next 5 days possible. The GFS is 25 in Ottawa, the icon to 74, 100 in Montreal. So the icon has some very strong storms around those areas. So be aware, shows more northern Quebec, more storms, and these showers and storms through central Canada, some spots there, even some rain further in northern Canada. So be careful in those areas, and especially some stronger storms with hail and everything. And then further into July, show some more rain in Florida, a few more storms continue in Canada. It does increase some in Arizona, but not that much. But it shows more southern half of Arizona and does increase across New Mexico, some and the plains as well. So, but it's like 13 days away, so don't even look at this. It's too far. But yeah, be careful in those areas. Some rain in Alaska as well. Shows a thunderstorm or two, some valleys in the afternoon, especially Thursday, tomorrow. Some snow in the high elevation still. So be careful in those areas. There's the snow map. Let's see if it shows anything. So it does show like 5 days some snow in Alaska, those areas in the mountains, like this must be around some 10 inches or something. Let's just verify here. So some 12 inches in some mountains, 6 inches, and shows like basically just in the mountains there. It shows a finger or two in Alberta or in the British Columbia Rockies or northern Nunavut, but it's basically very little or a finger or two near the Labrador Sea or the Atlantic. There's the GFS and it doesn't even have anything in the Rockies, just a finger or two, but it does have some northeastern Canada still. So be careful in those areas. And the temperatures are mild still, except for the mountains, the far north. But even Nunavut is 13 degrees. So the south is kind of hot still. And then it shows like now in the afternoon, a few spots warmer to 28 degrees, spots further south, some 26. 27. So be aware, those areas Wednesday, Thursday during the night slightly colder, the Rockies and the Arctic archipelago, but this going does get much warmer Thursday afternoon, central Canada, many spots there. So Friday, a few spots on the west, still colder in the mountains, and the especially in the higher terrain that the models don't really capture a lot. But this goes shows there's some spots northern Ontario, even to 28 degrees, and many areas central Canada. Some areas slightly less in Ontario, but far southern Ontario more. So that's Friday afternoon, Saturday morning on the west, slightly less, but still much warmer. Further south, central areas. So Saturday, Sunday still shows like central-ish Canada, very warm, even central Alaska, some spots there. So Monday is still shows on the 30th, very mild temperatures and very warm in a few spots, even to like 29 degrees possible. So stay safe in those areas. Be aware in terms of general wind gusts, does show kind of breezier in eastern Canada, a few spots northern and northwestern territories, but this goes, those storms will be stronger, of course, but like does show in the northern Rockies in the US, Saturday, slightly more wind in the morning, and off the west coast as well, but nothing really crazy in terms of wind, just those thunderstorms that have some damaging winds in them. but shows Sunday, there into Monday, the 30th, spots of northern Quebec, but nothing that crazy. Just maybe on July 1st, slightly breezier Midwest into the Northeast and Eastern Canada there. But that's far out. That's still far out. So be aware. The Caribbean still shows slightly more wind, Central Southern Caribbean near South America. Be careful some larger waves and some small craft advisors throughout the next week in a few spots. And I don't know if you noticed, but we had tropical storm Andrea in the Atlantic yesterday. It's now a long gone remnant. It doesn't even show in the National Hurricane Center anymore. But we had it and just basically it just vanished into the clouds there. But it was a tropical storm, the first one of the season in the Atlantic, like central subtropical Atlantic. So we already had Andrea. And the future is looking kind of quiet, but still, we are watching for potential things in the future. And these lightning strikes just started popping here. So let's see the Eastern Pacific. That's important. So shows like this area are at 40 and 80% chance of formation there in the Eastern Pacific. So this shows shower thunderstorms associated with an area low pressure. Look a few hundred miles south of the coast of Guatemala. Remain disorganized, but environmental conditions appear conducive for gradual development of the system during the next few days. Tropical depression or storms like to form by late this week, especially this weekend, late this weekend, where the system moves slowly west, northwestward off the coast of southern Mexico. So be aware, those areas we are still monitoring there. So yeah, be aware. And let's see here. There are no active storms, but I don't know if they say anything about Andrea here, but you know it happened. So be aware, those areas. Now for the Eastern Pacific, let's see if it shows something because it's already an invest. So here's the remnants of Andrea. So you can see this was the last advisory, and yeah, just remained out there in the Atlantic. But there's now like 95E, the invest. Some models already show like tropical storm intensity next week, and the HRF is already to category 1. So we'll keep watching this, but mainly some tropical storm intensity. Most of the hurricane models and global models are just uh, there in the ocean. They don't make landfall, but they kind of pass close to Mexico, so we better watch. The Canadian has one member into Mexico, kind of three of them, and most go out to sea. And there's the GFS, similar thing as well. So we'll keep watching those areas. There's here like the Eastern Pacific shows the GFS. It tries to form, it struggles a little bit. It forms and passes very close to Mexico June 30th as a hurricane, but it doesn't make landfall and then it goes out to sea. And later it does have another storm on July 7th to watch, but yeah, that's still far. There's the European the 60 still shows this forms. This tries to form there, might bring some heavy rain to Mexico, but it barely forms. It just tries on the European. The Canadian does show it tries there, becomes a tropical storm, and yeah, anticipates later by July 4th. So be aware in those areas. But there's the Canadian for another important thing here, like accumulated precipitation. So does show until Saturday. So now it's Wednesday. Until Saturday shows all the way to 200 millimeters already in Nicaragua on the Canadian model, more than 150 in southern Mexico, in Guatemala. So be careful with flooding those areas. Stay safe. There's like here shows the rain. There's the European here. This is the European shows until Monday the 30th. Next 5 days, 107 in Guatemala, Honduras some 79 millimeters, some 80 millimeters, shows in Costa Rica some 99, in Panama some tropical showers and storms, but especially to Guatemala and Mexico, kind of more concerning. So shows some 117 Guatemala in the next 5 days, more southern Mexico more than 120, South Central Mexico 143, the the southern coast there in the Pacific as the storm passes close, more spots to 125 millimeters. So be careful with flooding in those areas and stay safe. Be careful in those areas. In Belize shows more than 100 millimeters as well, some 108 millimeters. So stay safe. And this might change depending on the model. The GFS, I don't know why the GFS doesn't like Nicaragua, but it doesn't, but it keeps showing a lot of rain there, especially like it does have 200 millimeters, 204, 193. So the GFS still has a lot in Costa Rica, some 133. So stay safe. Some flooding as well. Shows more in Guatemala to 129 in El Salvador, more than 100 millimeters in Honduras, and more in the west coast of Mexico. So this is just one scenario from the GFS that he has this storm approaching the coast of Mexico with more than 200 millimeters. But the next run might show something different already going out to sea. So we'll keep watching. The icon just passes very close with some heavy rain in a few spots. But the icon does have in Belize in those areas more than 100 millimeters, the coast of Belize between Honduras and El Salvador and southern Mexico and Guatemala. So close to 200. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful with flooding. Shows more southern Mexico, intense storms, and like northwestern Mexico and those near those mountains might get strong as well. So like more than 40 millimeters, and until July shows like more than 100 millimeters. These areas western Mexico, even near the Gulf as well. So be careful in those areas. Let's see here. Entonces, na próxima semana vai haver lluvia muy fuerte así sur de México y Guatemala, Belice, Nicaragua y Amazonas. Estas lluvias y tormentas fuertes con peligro de deslizamientos de tierra e inundaciones, principalmente sur de México, muchas zonas más de 100 milímetros. Muchas precauciones con esta lluvia fuerte y inundaciones así. Y semana que viene va a haber unas temperaturas muy altas no norte de México. Y ya como esta semana, mañana jueves, casi 40 grados norte de México. Y viernes así, muestra 36, 38 sábado, domingo ya muestra como 40 grados, casi 41 grados, algunas zonas norte de México, precauciones con las temperaturas. Y en la península de Yucatán, más de 35 en algunas zonas, más de 37 cerca de Texas, y día 29, casi 44 grados en unas zonas ao norte de México, 43 y a un día 30, más de 40. Precauciones un poco menos en las montañas que es más frío. Good, so stay safe in those areas and the heat wave and everything. So stay safe. We have these tropical waves in the Atlantic still, with more showers southeast and Caribbean, a few storms. Depends on the day to have more or less showers, but does show by Saturday, Sunday, more showers and storms Central Caribbean into Puerto Rico, shows into next week. But yeah, this changes a lot, but be aware, those areas does show until June 30th more in Trinidad and Tobago, a few spots to 27 millimeters, especially in South America, in Guyana, in Venezuela, more than 75 millimeters. But that's showing the Caribbean to some 34 millimeters, a few islands in the windward side, some 21 millimeters. It shows more in Español, the Dominican Republic to 33. So be aware in Jamaica as well, sometimes a few stronger storms in Cuba, some passing showers, storms uh, the Cayman Islands and the Bahamas, those storms I showed you today. So stay safe in those areas. There's the icon slightly different, the GFS. So yeah, be careful those showers as well. And here, just one last thing, like not the last, but almost the last. Just see if the models have anything in the future. So it doesn't show anything in the Atlantic still, just in the Eastern Pacific. It has a lot of support there, but not even that great. But it might form there. There's a high chance. But it does show some rogue members on the East Coast, possible showing some low pressures there. But we'll keep watching. The GFS a thing or two on the East Coast and more on the Eastern Pacific. And those scared tropical waves there for further south, but still quiet. The Atlantic, so it's still very quiet, but we'll keep watching. And here, just showing this heat warning, still the extreme heat warnings in the mid-Atlantic, heat advisories, and some flood watches in these areas. So still be careful. Those areas, the extreme heat warning, heat indices up to 110 and more areas. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful. And now we'll be uh, trying to make better descriptions for the YouTube videos in many languages, so like people that don't speak English can understand you. So for example, for this video now, we'll put the description in English, Spanish, Portuguese, and also French. So, and if you want any different translation, just ask us in the comments, but we are trying to expand these things. So yeah, we'll keep watching everything and be aware. And also some coastal flood advisories in Hawaii, some coastal flood statements. And yeah, so stay safe. The image of the day is this big lightning strike from a thunderstorm last year. So yeah, bye.